We are now on the paradise island Bali. On the shallow beds around the island, loose substrata dominate, volcanic sands loaded with organic material. Life is well adapted to conditions here. The smallest invertebrates are the best at getting the food. Some lonely coral colonies grow in the sand and are refuge for animals which simply can't live exposed and need protection. Sometimes isolated Gorgonia colonies in the soft substrata. Among the branches, beautifully camouflaged, invisible, a pygmy seahorse. The more open areas of Bali are battered by non-stop currents. And the corals here have problems in forming real reefs, so end up growing in groups of various densities, scattered around according to wave and current stress. The fish huddle into the rocky crannies. To the southeast of Bali, small islands with almost vertical walls. Here, cold water ascends loaded with nutrients, meaning greater productivity, and attract the big pelagic fish who come in, some for the plankton and others for the fish to be had. Bali not only has variety in its natural habitats, but in the number of shipwrecks hiding secrets. One is this American cargo ship, sunk in the Second World War. Among its twisted metal, a myriad of fish have discovered their habitat. The ship's surface has been taken over by the invertebrae, which are food for the fish. The ship's structure also generates different habitats, which offer shelter for the prey and attraction for the predators. In a sea so rich and species diverse as here in Bali, a wreck becomes a brilliant oasis where biodiversity is almost infinite. The giant bumphead parrotfish know the score. This is their nightly accommodation. The Indian Ocean is the third ocean in the world, and its oceanographic features are heavily influenced by the Asian continent because the temperature differences between the sea and the continent provoke the monsoons. The effect is seasonal and influences the North Indian Ocean climate. The marine parks of Muko Similan and Surin, near on the western coasts of Thailand, are a paradise. They offer a wealth and diversity which is irresistible for the big pelagic species. Effects of global warming and more frequent El Niño phenomena have punished the corals severely, causing massive mortality, like here, in shallower waters, down to 18 meters. Yet the eastern side of the island is still rich in corals and coastal reef. The soft corals dominate here. The western side is rocky and bare, with corals more adapted to rougher water. But they grow faster than normal, it seems. Among the rocky channels, big, seabed-loving predators hide. One of the most spectacular is the leopard shark. Lovely gardens of sea fans grow in deeper waters with currents. These islands congregate huge numbers of pelagic fish, thanks to their geographic location. The Carangiids, big sharks and rays, come in close, attracted by the food around and the cleaning services offered by other residents of the Isles. The central and southern atolls of the Maldives, unlike those of the north, have deeper lagoons and have fewer numbers of tillas and pharaohs in the interior. It is hypothetically suggested that, as they are older, sinking and plate tectonic slipping has taken place. In the wide channels between the atoll lagoon and the open sea, strong tidal currents exist. Food and particle movement is favoured, so these places are very popular with a mass of hungry fish. And where there are fish, there will be the predators. More often than not, Carangiids. The sharks are also to be found. The white-tipped reef shark are usual, near the bed, while the grey sharks prefer areas where the current is more obvious. Leopard sharks are around too, near the bottom. The Maldives have been a laboratory for coral recovery after blanching and death due to global warming. Since 1998, coral cover has soared in these reefs, in some places 60%. It's due in large part to the fast growth of the acroporid corals. It's good news, as long as mortality doesn't happen too often. The manta rays are common in the Maldives. Recent research has suggested their distribution depends on the seasonal current changes caused by the monsoons. They normally mix in the reef countercurrent and move with the seasons. like the manta rays, the whale sharks make an appearance. Most coming here are young males. To feed, they have a water suction system which improves filtering performance, and this is ideal when plankton is around in quantity. If plankton concentration is sufficient, they can feed vertically, motionless, that is, without swimming. The Red Sea, a miniature ocean which began to form 40 million years ago, and with time will grow to be a real ocean. In the central part, islands and oceanic reefs, far from the coast and ecologically vital. Daedalus and St. John's are the most outstanding. In fantastic shape because of excellent water quality and their distance from urban areas. Fish diversity is very high in this part of the Red Sea, and here, like few other seas, the indigenous species thrive, unique to the Red Sea, 10% of the total. Corals form up huge reefs, whose walls drop dizzily down to shelves, hundreds of meters down. Shallow platforms formed by fossil reefs, some tens of meters down, healthy patch reef grows. And here is where life is to be found. Fish, coral, crustaceans and bivalves. Everybody has a habitat, and everybody has a refuge. Structures are formed with time by the contact of patch reef masses that started growing alone. Little by little, the reef becomes a huge maze. We leave the Red Sea and go to cooler and colder seas. Our first port of call, Graciosa, in the Canary Islands. The Canaries are formed by volcanic islands in subtropical latitudes, bathed by the Canary Current in the eastern Atlantic. Strong ecological gradients exist north-south and east-west. The water is nutrient poor and warmer in the west, and colder to the north, yet productive to the east. This means temperate and tropical species are to be found here. A true Garden of Eden of marine life. Graciosa is the northernmost island of the Canaries and one of the oldest, It is bathed by richer, colder water than the more western isles. The Rio, in the south, is the channel separating Graciosa from Lanzarote. The lava eroded over time is strewn around the shallow seabed at no more than 20 meters channel depth. The fissures, caves and crannies formed serve as home to a massive number of fish species and invertebrates. To the north of the island, the Burrera Channel, where powerful currents form daily. Algae then is abundant and fish species diversity greater. Algae presence is a first-class indicator of the zone's state of conservation. Between Graciosa and the tiny island of Montaña Clara to the north, the seabed is made up of canyons and huge rocks surging up from the depths. Gerarda savalia, false black coral, grows abundantly at around 50 meters down. In fact, this population is considered unique in the world due to the density of the individuals here. Beautiful Candelero or Dendrophylla ramea colonies too. This coral is more common deeper down, yet here it is, living in shallower water. Among the most outstanding fish here are the impressive island grouper, a species only found in the Macaronesia. Thousands of kilometers to the north, and still in the Atlantic, we discover the fjords of Norway, a special ecosystem of the North Europe seas. Water temperature here, it is around 6 degrees Celsius in winter. We are in Sonja Fjord, the second biggest fjord in the world. The fjords are a unique, characteristic habitat in Europe. The surface water layer is low in salinity, and strong gradients are generated with more salty, deeper water, called halocline. The water is usually murky, and light all but disappears after the first few meters down. Life here has adapted to a world of permanent penumbra. Areas of strong currents and dimness means the filtering animals dominate. But the most spectacular thing in these cold waters, the kelp forests. These have great ecological and economic value. Kelp can be used as food and in several industrial processes. Overfishing and successive plagues of urchins almost condemned the kelp to oblivion. From an ecological point of view, it is the basis of a rich community where an endless number of species can find food and shelter. The sandy beds, rich in biomass and species, attract predators, like the manta rays. The fjord's depths never fail to surprise us and are home to very unusual beings. One is this rare wolffish. They are also the habitat for beautiful invertebrate populations, like these, tapestrying the substrata where the current is active and food supply is good. And even evidence of sea traffic, German ships from the Second World War. they used some of these fjords as a base. Living beings have taken over and have colonized the wrecks. Often, the coverage is so great, it's difficult to make out the original ship structure. And fish, like this lumpen, can finish their vital cycles here, since marine community growth over the wrecks supposes a new habitat for the Norwegian fjords. As we all know, the seas and oceans make up more than 70% of the Earth's surface. But their importance goes farther than just size. Here, 97% of the world's water is contained. The climate and weather is regulated by them, and the oxygen we breathe is generated by them. Yet, our seas and oceans continue to be the great unknown to man. One statistic will serve to make the point. Until today, 200,000 species have been identified. But if we take into account the fact that 95% of the seas and oceans are still to be explored, then perhaps there are millions of species still to be uncovered. Many secrets to be revealed, and our future is dependent on the protection and conservation of such an enormous heritage offered by our seas and oceans.